to order. It is 9:43 on March 25th. And you don't have the pledges on here, but do you want to do the pledges?
Sure.
Okay, rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And to the Texas flag, honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. And I will say the invocation. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord God, for bringing us to this beautiful city and the beautiful San Marcos River. Lord God, as we go forward and try to solve this problem of parking in Martindale, we just ask for your guidance and just help us to be civil with each other and conscious of what everybody's needs are. And I just thank you for the gift of salvation. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Hey.
Did you hear what you just said, Jerry? Make sure you heard it, okay?
So at the last city
Behavior.
council meeting, Adrian did discuss the Park mobile app. And we discovered that the app can pretty much do anything that we want to do in Martindale as far as parking. And I'm just gonna kind of give a little history why we're even talking about this. So on either end of town, at the triangle at Skull Crossing, we've had a lot of crime there. We've had parking problems there. It got so bad with the parking that Lanzola did shut that down somewhat at our request because we were very concerned about people walking back and forth across the road, especially children. And we were very concerned about somebody getting killed at that intersection. And then at the other end, at Phase 1 Park especially, we've had the park is being used a great deal, especially even by outsiders, that we have to have a way to control that. So we've been exploring for quite some time as to what to do. So that kind of brings us here today. And I'm going to let my city administrators take over.
Can I just chime in real quick though, and on the end of what you're saying?
Yeah.
I think like it's very important just to state like, not only is it crime, but it's the amount of trash. And the people that, not knowing, who the owner, who's responsible, is the city responsible, is the property owner responsible? But the amount of trash that's there is like an abundance of litter. And where does it end up? In the river. So not only with the crime, there is a huge emphasis for me on my part is the trash as well.
And Lanzola is going to deed that triangle to us. It's in the works, but it's not in our name yet. So that's something else to keep in mind.
And I'll just say one thing too, that the other concern that we had as a city and that I have currently is the maintenance of the parks and the amount of money it takes to maintain the parks, especially the mowing in Phase 1 and Allen Bates Park. These parks, the mowing now costs us over half of the park budget, and that doesn't leave much money left over in the budget for infrastructure improvements, for improvement on the mulch in the playgrounds and the swings, fence in improvement. So the money needed to improve our infrastructure and maintain our parks is something what I also was concerned about.
I guess I'll add my 2 cents worth. Come on, Mr. Clinton. To me, it's kind of a mixed bag because at one point we want to protect the river, but we need to also have access for people to use the river. So this is what this parking is about because we don't want to shut it totally down. We want to have access, because people want to hear it to swim and canoe or whatever. So I think this presentation will probably be a good solution for all parties. So
Councilmember Styler?
Go ahead, Vince.
I think, honestly, for me, it just makes sense that we do have enforcement throughout the city, because ultimately people do take advantage of something that is free, and it's just how the way the world works and how these parks, if we're gonna grow and our infrastructure needs to be updated, we need some kind of revenue stream for the city. That's really, I've had people approach me like, why would you do this? Why would you put parking in the city? It's gonna deter people from coming to the city. And then I ask them, have you ever thought about going somewhere and then looked up, oh, you have to pay to park? I'm not going. I've never gone to, like, thinking about going to New Braunfels and like, oh, well, actually it's like $5 to park downtown. No, I'm not gonna go. I personally, I've never had that situation happen for me. So, and it's a good way to, I think it's just the evolution of the city. I mean, we're just getting surrounded as a city by all these developments and people. We have to mature correctly. And I think this is the way we mature. So
I think the council did a great job of laying out the problems that we're trying to address: the safety issues, the trash, the free rider problems, the park maintenance, river access and protection, and also making room for improvements. I think that's what problem are we trying to solve? I think that accurately encompasses the problem. I mean, 4th of July last year, I think Councilmember Clinton picked up the equivalent of 8 cubic yards of trash out of phase 1. An insane amount of trash, and people really doing some vile things down there, and really taking a pristine riverbank and really trashing it. And that's something we want to protect. So the agenda today we'll try to break out the conversation in 4 parts. We're going to start with, let's talk about Park Mobile as an application and how it would be used in city parks. Then we'll discuss where we want to have Park Mobile designated spaces or paid parking in general designated spaces, what those spaces rate settings would be, and then how we want to integrate pay for parking across the city of Martindale, and really is Park Mobile the solution? So I believe, based on prior council sessions, workshops and meetings, I think we're all pretty much in agreement of looking at doing paid parking in some capacity in phase 1, possibly Skull Bridge and others. Is there any dissent on the point of using paid parking? Because if we do at that point, I think it's worth discussing that before we move on to the other items.
Would you mind repeating the areas? You just listed the areas where we would propose to have it. Would you just mind repeating that? I just want to make sure I got it right.
So the areas of potential paid parking is citywide. The immediate concerns in front of my mind is phase 1, Skull Bridge, but there might be opportunities to expand that network of paid parking to include Allen Bates, downtown, or other feasible places. So I think we're going to work through each of those areas as we go along in the discussion today. But I just want to at least get a confirmation from council on, are we in agreement that paid parking is a solution that we want to talk about today?
Yes, but I have reservations about the Skull Bridge parking lot because of the 2 deaths that we've seen there, the lack of maintenance that we've seen that has been applied to that, except for Jeff going to pick up the garbage. The Skull Bridge is not a park. It is only a place where people get into the river and trespass and go to the beach. Michelle and her husband are setting up conservation easement there to have the canoers and the kayakers park there. So I have reservations about that. I also have reservations about charging to park downtown at this point. I think if we apply the paid parking to the parks, let's see what happens as a result of that. Will people overflow into the city streets as a result of parking? Allen Bates Park should be paid parking as well as the overflow parking of the Fannin Street lots. Sean and I counted 38 spaces there on the Fannin Street lots. We counted maybe 25 at Bait. So I think more discussion should be given to Skull Bridge.
Before we get onto that conversation about designated parking spaces, is everybody okay with using Park Mobiles as the mediator for payment and zones? I know there's some concerns about accessibility, whether someone doesn't have a smartphone. That at our last council meeting, we've already established that you don't need a smartphone to use Park Mobile and to pay for parking. But is there any questions or concerns about using software to regulate our parking?
I think it's a brilliant idea. I'm all for it myself. Too. I mean, we don't have the money of San Marcos. They have kiosks. We can't afford that stuff.
Sam?
I think it's, yes, let's pursue a discussion on the Park Mobile app, yes.
So Mary, do you have any comments on Park Mobile?
No, I think it's a
We'll
good
ask Sonia.
solution.
Yeah, letter.
Is this a workshop?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
So that means I can talk.
Yes.
First of all,
Well,
Let's
that's
just-
Sonia first.
Sonia, I have brought up are you okay with using a software to regulate our parking at designated parking spaces? Because there was concerns about accessibility for using the application. And we've determined that you can use a regular cell phone, but before we move on with the conversation, are we okay with using a software to monitor our parking?
Yes.
Okay, so we're in consensus on that. Good. All right.
So I think we go down to item B, and talk about where we'd want to do this. And I think, front of mind for me is phase one. Do we have? Sure.
Oh, I just wanted to say, I was at Allen Bates all day yesterday, I guess it was afternoon. And there was a happening an Anglo couple, they're from Lockhart, and they have a business there. They come down and see 2 adults, 3 adults, 2 kids, and they're in the river, swimming and stuff, having a great time right there. And I just said, how much would you be willing to pay to park and come down here? 5, 10, 15. And they said, we would just go somewhere else. Now, these were not destitute people that didn't have a dime in their pocket, okay? But I just want you to keep that in mind. I think a low fee is a great idea. Get it? I mean, if these people are, I couldn't believe that he said that. I thought he would say, nah, $5, $10. He just said, we're just going somewhere else. And there's going to be a lot of people like that. And that would alleviate some of the crowding, of course.
Yeah.
People aren't going to show up at all.
And that's what Nick said too.
Yeah.
But we're going to try and determine each question individually so that we can somewhat stay on track.
Well, I mean, can we ask
Should we
the
go
forum then if there's any other comments about this, then I would like, since we're all here.
Can we?
Rob has his hand
Maybe
up.
we should do what do you think, Jared? Do your presentation first and then.
Well, I really hadn't,
How do you prefer to do it?
the only thing that we're going to present today was a map, just try to assist the conversation. Adrian can pull that up. I really didn't have a formal presentation. We've made some of those formal presentations before. I didn't think we needed to go through. I just wanted to structure the conversation to get decisions and all of this. Today's discussion will have to be memorialized in some sort of ordinance that would set rates, set zones, and the rest to be enforced. And so today's not going to be the last day we're going to have to debate many of these items, but at least provide enough information to Adrian and I to begin drafting that ordinance that reflects today's discussion.
Okay, so
Mr.
could I hear
Devaney
from
has a
Rob? Yeah, Rob,
had a
then.
comment.
Thank you.
I want to echo Sam's concerns about Skull Bridge. I don't think that this paid parking down there is a good idea along the road easements, and even the little triangle piece is probably needs to, if it belongs to the city, needs to not be that. The reason is that when you give people the opportunity to pay, they're going to assume that this is a condoned, accepted, safe operation, and parking along the roadways even if it's paid for, those kids can still run across there. And that's a 30-mile-an-hour road going through there that we all know people do many times exceed that speed limit. So if something bad happens, I think by taking money from folks and implying that this is going to be okay and safe gives the city an awful lot of liability.
Mhm.
It also would then push people across the river to these folks' property.
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you, on the other hand, if you went down there and passed an ordinance that said, no parking within 500 feet of Skull Bridge and intersection with Northwest River Road, put up some signs, put towing enforced on there and actually enforced it, that removes the liability, I think, from the city, at least mostly. It also gives the folks on Guadalupe County the opportunity to do something similar. So it's all appears alike, and you begin to go tell folks, now, if the city wanted to buy an acre and make a parking lot down there, where you get them off the road, you can put a crosswalk or something, that might be a solution. If you guys were doing that to take care of the kayakers and get that more organized, but still no parking along the road down there is a.
Well, I think that's what we previously discussed, right? As a council, or that's what we wanted to hire a towing company that would go around the city and put up signs and actually enforce it, which is needed.
And I also echo the comment that if you're gonna try this, try it in a few small areas like the parks. Doing it for downtown is just going, whatever money you make off of the people that really do come.
Yeah.
You're gonna lose that
I do.
in sales tax and the like. And you have to come up with a way of handling out of towners that are really in towners. The people in the ETJs, the Tom Goins of the world, the Virginia Parkers of the world, the Jane Lathams of the world, you either own property or have a vested interest in that. They would have, if you towed off their car for some reason, that'd be a travesty. Those are good citizens.
Well, let me give you my side of this. It's a double-edged sword for me. That Skulls parking lot has always been, in the past, was a drop-off for canoers and kayakers to run shuttles. And actually, I think TRPA gave the city $20,000 at one time for access to the river down there. So I totally agree with you. Something needs to be done, but as I kind of look at it, as just have that as the only parking area allowed. Anything on the side of the road, up Quail Run, no parking. So if you want to park there, you park in that parking lot. And also, it would give us some revenue, and then, as I discussed multiple times, to make it affordable, let's have an annual pass. So if you're a local paddler or fisherman or whatever, you pay, like Texas Parks and Wildlife, you pay a fee, and you have access to that parking lot. So for me, if we come in and say we can't have any parking at Skulls, none, it's going to really get people upset. But we say, hey, we're going to have this designated area that's always been that for that purpose for many, as long as I've been here. But it is a problem place, but things like pay parking and no parking after dark, something like that no parking, that you take care of the drug issue or the crime, that's only for day use only. And I think most of the people that would be using that would probably be people running shuttles, just dropping a car off.
Or, anglers usually.
Yeah.
I do agree with Rob and Sam. I think what's happening is Lanzola has sold like 6 or 7 of the lots along the river of the 11 lots. People are going to be building homes along there. They've got it in the works to rezone along Northwest River Road, all R1. So we're going to have like 25 homes. And I don't think those homeowners are going to appreciate parking in that triangle.
I think it would take away from, this is personal bias, but you see nothing but, in the morning at least, there's nothing but fishermen and then people who are kayaking. And if they can't use that Skull Bridge to get in and out, then it's going to limit the use of the river upstream, which is not what we want to do, right? We want people to enjoy the river. So there should be a resolution for that. I think we've talked about a different, like the year-long pass. That's maybe a way we can do it. There's definitely specifics that we need to get into that. I also want to talk about Rob's point to maybe we extend not just to the citizens of Martindale, maybe the ETJ gets engulfed as well within our free parking. I think that might be a better resolution.
Yeah, well, but like I said, but multiple times, if you're a resident here, you pay zero.
Yeah.
And
But
we,
c-
but
Could I get
Go.
clarity real quick on something?
Sure.
So then whenever we're, like, say we're saying, okay, yes, we're gonna do paid parking, and the city is doing the parking for right there only in those spots, whose land does that belong to that they're accessing to get into the river? And whose land
That's
does this belong to
Well, that's-
whenever they're?
Michelle and Steve.
So then we as a city are saying, go ahead and trespass on these properties to access the river.
Right, 100%. But that's something that we want to discuss with them because that's probably why they're here, is to talk about that situation. So,
Yeah, because they're working with Texas Parks and Wildlife
Yeah.
to create and donating land for a parking lot.
yeah, there was a whole,
And as a matter of fact, we'll leave it in like 5 minutes.
go ahead, go ahead and talk to us. Got something?
Well, we are working with Texas Parks and Wildlife, so we're planning on having about 10 to 12, 15 parking spots, fenced area, electronic gate, with a code to get in, free parking. But it'll work through Tom probably, Goins. So we're waiting on a bid on the fencing, then it goes back to Texas Parks and Wildlife, because they're gonna pay for the fencing. So we get the grant, then we sign a contract, and so, we're pushing for Memorial Day, if we can get it done by it is primitive. There is we're not putting down a road base, we're not making a parking lot. You can park your truck and trailer here
Right.
if you have the gate code.
Right.
So that will, and by law, people have river access there.
You're right.
We can't take that away.
You're correct.
So people can go in and out along the roadway into the river. So we're not trying to change that. We're just trying to control it. So then the people would be walking from the peninsula there to the upstream side, just up the hill, and then there'll be a parking lot.
so
So that would unload.
Yeah.
River people, kayakers, shuttles from that top parking lot.
So I guess as a city, we need to figure out, are you guys gonna be housing enough room for what's already happening? That's really, I guess that's the question, or do we cut that triangle off, or do we accept?
Yeah.
I'm coming from a paddler, I'm the paddler here. I've been here for 40-something years. And it's always been a takeout for most people coming, running the river, and they take out there. And like I said, that's a problem. People love to paddle or fish or whatever. I mean, we need to have, people have a right to access to the river, and that's my whole thing. To shut it all down. I mean, I totally agree with Rob. Northwest River Road, we shouldn't allow any parking except there. And I agree, Quail Run, no parking anywhere along there because the road is too narrow.
I agree.
It's unsafe.
If it's
Parking lot.
I think if it's regulated and.
Yeah, regulated.
I think if it's regulated, the only thing we can do is try it. And if it isn't working,
And
then we
here's
gotta
another
revisit
point.
it.
Here's another point. I've talked to the police about this. Is he around?
Mhm.
Is Rick here? Is he? Okay. They patrol. And I've asked them this. They said typically in the morning, it's kayakers, fishermen. So those places will be taken in the morning. So that they'll be taken till probably in the early afternoon. Okay. So and typically I would assume 99% of them are just dropping vehicles off. So they're not really hanging out down there. They're just doing it for a shuttle,
For sure.
for a drop off,
Shouldn't
So,
it be in the verbiage then?
Oh.
Takeout and drop off?
There's
Oh,
one
yeah.
sign down there.
Uh-huh.
Drop off only.
we could do a lot of things. That's a good point, Son. That's a very good.
we
point.
could,
How would we?
I would take,
Distinguish.
I would try not to do that just because
I mean,
once
it
you put verbiage under something, then it's.
I don't know, but
Misconstrued.
just by the nature of it though, most people that come will be the paddlers, and then the summer, later in the afternoon, you're gonna have people coming down. Like I said, everybody has a right to use the river, but And then at that particular point, it's a bad spot because of the crime and the traffic on Northwest River Road. To me, it's a compromise. For me, if we say we're gonna shut this whole thing down, nobody can park anywhere on Northwest River Road. You're gonna shut that down totally. And, you know, they're doing the right thing too, but that's a very popular place. It's been that way for many, many years. To do that and not allow people to, you know, be able to access the river. I think it's, in my opinion, it's a compromise.
Well, and we are not, we're allowing them to access the river. We don't have it. We don't have that as a city. They're gonna do it no matter what.
Well,
We're allowing them to park
Yeah,
as
they
a
have
city.
that is
But they
access.
also are allowing them to park
Oh, yeah.
as well.
I wanted to remind the council, in fact, most of y'all probably weren't around back but in the 2014, prior to the big flood, before 2015, there was a plan, not a plan, there was a proposal for the city to acquire rights to the land underneath the power line, right? It runs right next to Percival's place.
Mhm.
It's a little further upriver than that. But the idea at that time was to put in a gate, put in a parking lot that was specifically for what Mike's talking about. And that would be off the road. I mean, you would pull in there and it's wide enough where you could probably have pull-through parking for the trucks and trailers that run these kayaks. And they were gonna charge. That the thought process at that time would be, that would be a revenue generator for the city to charge that. There would be some money that would have to be expended to go off and probably get that easement. And all they were dealing with at the time was the power line. Now there's a water line that runs through there
Yeah.
that may cloud the issue.
Mhm.
But that's an option that we have forgotten or discarded or whatever, that somebody might want to go pursue to see if they think they could do that.
But that's only for parking, there's no river access right there.
Yeah.
How many spots are there? How many spots are right there?
22, I think it was about big.
You can fit 22 right there?
That's what Tommy, Chief Ward.
Clearing of
That's
trees.
a lot
you
of
fit about
people right
22.
there.
22, that's 10 foot of
That's a lot of people. Especially with
Well,
what they're adding over there, which is gonna be mainly, that's gonna be mainly the anglers and kayakers. It's not gonna be,
In the place we're putting in with Texas Parks and Wildlife, there's a no fee to park there. So,
Yeah, so if the paddlers and the fishermen have a place to go park, I think that would solve the problem.
Don't they pay an annual? I thought they paid.
I don't think so.
I know Tom did that.
Yeah, Parks and Wildlife would rather not have it be a charging
Oh.
thing because their whole deal is access.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we're fine.
And then that way, that would move the people with little children that are putting their tents up in the river, that would move them hopefully down to the park.
But the problem, you talking about how many parking places?
It's gonna be 120 feet long and 100 feet deep.
They-
So how
that's
many
a,
put
that's
in
a,
there?
that's a lot of people.
Well, again,
Well, parking.
wait, this is one of the most popular rivers to paddle. I'm still saying, just look what happened the last summer.
Mike, we got somebody in the corner there.
Just a quick question. You're talking about the wildlife park. Where is that in relationship to the triangle?
It's on the Guadalupe side, come up the hill, see the road going to the house, it's just a little bit past that.
Keep going.
Come down, right, that little, right,
Like this
Right
one.
there.
That's
Right
the
there?
property that's identified for lease right now or something?
No.
yes, exactly, we're leasing that house, but it's, it'll be in the corner next to that little trailer house.
So like
Right there,
Okay.
that'll be the entrance.
That's a little bigger than what.
a little bit too big.
It's not a very good square, Adrian.
That's enough.
Let me,
That's actually nice, because you gotta walk down to it, so if I want to have a tent or something like that.
Put it in your mega barbecue grill, you can't roll it down.
Yeah, that's harder.
But it's not,
there's a couple of things that I see that are a little bit misleading. And I don't live in Martindale. I actually live in San Marcos, but own property at River Ranch. The triangle, what you're seeing right there of 23 cars is not indicative of what takes place in the mornings.
Mhm.
Because what you see in the mornings, a lot of times are either pickup trucks with kayak racks or trailers and cars that are parked parallel. And so therefore, what you identify as 23 places
Uh-huh.
becomes 10 places. Really.
You got it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that raises the first question. The second issue that I experience, because I drive that road 5-6 days a week, going to River Ranch, is that especially in the summertime and even in the spring and fall, you have a pedestrian population that is, number one, not aware of the volume of traffic that's on that road. There's also, and I'm going to call it the cut through, which is at the bottom side of the triangle, that is a blind spot, and it is extremely dangerous
Mhm.
driving, and it's even more dangerous because people are not watching coming through that cutoff, or the pedestrians walking down, and kids are the culprits.
Yeah.
Very often. So I like the idea of the park area, but then the question raises of how do you get from that park area to the river? And you're talking about what, quarter-mile walk?
I can measure it.
About, well,
Well, it wouldn't be a court, yeah.
But you're gonna have people only with passes that are, already have a, if I just came from out of town and came to your spot, will I be able to access that parking?
By calling Tom Goins,
It's gonna be, cellular.
and it's through Texas Parks and Wildlife, so it's labeled
Yeah, it's gonna be
Texas Parks and
So
Wildlife.
it's not for tourists or,
Well, that's the thing is right now, as you know, a lot of people are coming, and that's, the default
mhm,
closest place to get in
mhm.
from the rural areas from north and south of here.
I do think, I get where you're coming from. I do think the people who we want to allow as a city, not saying that we don't really have jurisdiction in it, but I think they're gonna supply enough for that population, and they'll be willing to park their car there, walk it down.
paddlers and fishermen.
I think we stick with that for now, sign it out, shut that triangle down for a while.
Well,
See if it's supplies.
Let's just go back to what Jeff said. A lot of people won't come if they have to pay. That's why,
But they don't have, the
They won't
paddlers
come
don't
and
have
go.
to
Let me
pay.
finish. So they don't have, they have to pay. So I'm a paddler, and if I'm paddling, I would rather take it to Triangle. If I'm a fisherman and I got a trailer, no, I wouldn't want it. But if I was a paddler, canoe racers and stuff would prefer, and it's a safety, talking about a safety issue, it's a shorter walk going from that triangle down to the river than from that parking lot to Skulls Bridge. So what I'm saying is if you have paid parking, it's gonna eliminate a lot of people. And I want to add this to it, the can ban and the alcohol ban. So you have, and I'm gonna insist on that, if we do that parking lot, there's no disposable containers and there's no alcohol. So right then and there, it's gonna deter the partiers to come down there and go set up their canopies and go drink beer all day. So that in itself would eliminate, thanks for coming,
Thank you.
would eliminate the, that particular problem.
What do y'all think?
I think it's a party hole.
It is a party.
Yeah.
And every time I go down there
Mhm.
and we're either just getting in with the kayaks or we're getting in, I have to go through the swaddle of people with 3 different boom boxes with the
Yeah.
volume all the way at 10, and
Mhm,
people are slamming down beer, hugging and
mhm, mhm.
smoking and
Resolution?
Well, that's the problem. It's on their property.
What about doing parking only in the morning for
Yeah.
free or pay
We
$5?
really need to have Tommy here, we need a police officer, because they're the one.
Well, at first he was for shutting it down.
Yeah, he
And
was.
then
He
he,
wanted
Yeah,
to shut
let's-
it down, yeah.
I think Tommy's gonna be a little late. Maybe that would be a good discussion for the
So
police.
back, what do you think the resolution, what do you think you guys' resolution
I think that the
was?
resolution should be that, if the kayaks need to go in or out, if they want to do parking, then we could do parking for kayakers,
Mhm.
for fishermen, for, a time limit.
Yeah.
Like a loading zone.
Be hard
Yeah.
to determine that, yeah.
Yeah, you can't,
It'd be hard to,
Question
it'd
them
be hard
when
to enforce
they
that.
want a
That's just that's what I think. It'd be hard to figure out, all right, well, how do you know if that's actually somebody, they just have a pickup truck? Just
So then-
Can we do this? Let's go talk about phase one and Allen Bates, and then maybe Tommy will come. Tommy's gonna
I
let it-
did want something, I did want to talk about, because I know we have some business owners here, and I know there is a concern about having parking throughout the whole
Maybe we can
city.
talk about that, and because I really want the law enforcement here.
And I do,
They know more.
I would like to hear
Go ahead.
what the city has to say about, like, as a business owner, what do you think it will do to the flow of traffic to the city if we did put paid parking throughout the city? Do you think the overflow would hurt or benefit the business here in town?
Can I make a suggestion here?
Okay,
Let's just, right now, let's go on to phase one, and let's talk about phase one or whatever. Let's go.
that is basically talking about phase one, because if
Yes, let's go ahead, let's start with phase.
I think
Can I
we
answer
should
that
finish
quick?
Skull Crossing
But we
and
need,
make a decision, since
Okay,
we were
I-
talking, spending a lot of time.
I'll say one last thing then about Skull Bridge. I've driven by there in the summertime as well. I've seen 25 to 30 cars parked there. I've driven down by the bridge. There's people in the river. If you've got 25 cars of people there.
Yeah.
Sitting on the banks of the river, trespassing onto Scott Jecker and let me just finish,
I
okay?
understand.
On their property. Also, that means you've got 25 to 40 people urinating and defecating down there because there's no porta potty. They're also leaving the garbage. They're in the river with suntan lotion, with
I understand.
canopies. I do
Totally
not
agree.
want any people on those beaches. I'm
Okay.
adamant, Mike.
I agree.
Okay.
I totally agree.
Yeah, but how are we gonna
Let's
differentiate
let
and distinguish
we need-
between those people?
We need to hear from the law enforcement.
So I've spoke with Tommy extensively on these things, as has the mayor. I think I know his position on these matters pretty well. What's the concern that you have, or what information would you need from him? And I might be able to answer that, or at least get back to you with an answer.
My question, they patrol that. They know a lot more than anybody in this room. I want to hear what they think about it, because they're the ones enforcing this. So what's been going on in the past? I know it's been mayhem down there. I will say on record here, we definitely don't want to have what happened last summer. We don't want 50 cars down parked on Northwest River Road. I'm totally against that. That's a problem.
So from parking enforcement standpoint, this applies throughout today's discussion, regardless of whether we set no parking, paid parking, or I guess it wouldn't matter if it's free, open parking, but whether there's no parking or paid parking, the police chief's position on that is he would like to put the enforcement onus on a towing company.
Okay.
Yeah,
He does not see a lot of value in the city police officers issuing parking tickets, because there's no way to really enforce that in any concrete sense if someone doesn't pay. They get a piece of paper, thank you very much, and they go away. Except for, possibly booting cars after so many violations or something. But he sees it more expedient as setting the rules, contracting with the towing company, and having the towing company do the enforcement actions separate from the police. As it pertains to activity in the river and on the other side of the river, their position has been they on the other bank, they lack jurisdiction. The most that they can do is coordinate with Guadalupe Sheriff's Office, who will respond. However, I think it's worth acknowledging that it's probably a low priority call to respond to from the Sheriff's Department. Frankly. And then what's happening in the river, separate and apart from the can ban, there's really no enforcement action that they can take. People have free enjoyment of that space, as long as they're not doing anything illegal.
I think back, what was your name in the
I'm
corner?
Robert Howard.
Robert, I think back to his point there, I don't think paid parking there is a good idea after we resonate on this as we marinate. I think putting those stripes there is just gonna push people, like, we were saying, it's gonna push people to go into that river and do what we're talking about that we don't want to happen, right? And the people who are actually, the people we want using that area or would like to be using the river in a correct manner are the ones who can't use those spots. They're gonna be parking parallel. So it's just not, I think our neighbors are supplying enough land for those people to do what they need to be doing. And we need to shut the triangle down. I don't think it's worth our trouble and our issues and put signs there. I think we need to put signs there. And if anybody parks there, we tow them. And we have to enforce that, so that's where I'm at after this discussion.
Because that, the homeowners have provided
I
them.
would still, to do this properly, we still need to have a law. I want a law enforcement officer.
But that's,
Is Rick available?
he literally,
Well, no, we need-
that's what he
Hey,
said.
we need to talk directly to the police.
He's gonna say what
We've
he just
talked
said, because
to
we've
the
talked to him
But
before.
I think Tommy's gonna be here a little later. Can we go on and talk about the app or talk about how we're gonna do tollway? So I think we need to have these people involved.
If I may, Councilman, I would like to get the sense from each council
You
member.
got my sensor.
Before we proceed, just to close this out, to get resolution on this and then.
Sean had one, he had his hand up.
Yeah, I just, thinking of a lot of options for that spot. And driving past there and seeing that the fence is already up and you had a gate on one end and a gate on the other. Could you not find, if it's about revenue, could you not find an outfitter that just does kayaks and canoes right there? Since it's already fenced, put the liability on them, the signage on them, and they can pull their trucks right through there with a gate on each end. Something to think about.
Yeah.
If you can find an outfitter, then the spot's available for the people we want and it's revenue. And they don't have, all they gotta do is go up and down the damn hill. They don't have to walk a quarter mile. Something to think about. Okay. It's already there, it's already fenced.
Yeah.
Need 2 gates, you're done. Somebody to lease it, that's all.
I do think that's partially possible, but the width of the parking lot, by the time you have the fence there, is almost to where only one width of a vehicle with a trailer could park there. So it's not like you can have 2 vehicles passing side by
Well,
side.
there's a car there with a trailer right now. You zoom in on that, you could probably fit 2 or 3 of those easy.
Can I make a suggestion here?
Mhm.
Let's go to phase 1. Alan, no, let me finish. Phase 1, Alan let's go ahead and get that ball rolling. And then maybe we can address this at a later date and see how it goes.
Well, why don't you just keep your senses up in the air and I think we all have a decision to be made right now.
Yeah, Jared had a question on the table.
Yeah, I just want to hear from the other council members on what your position is on this.
I'd like to keep it as what Nick suggested for now, unless we could explore other options, say that Sean mentioned and research that. But for now, I say keep it closed, no access to the river from the Skull Bridge parking lot, no.
I think that, with also like charging, it's for like improvement or betterment of the community. I could say that we're not gonna have restroom facilities out there. I could say that, the maintaining of the property is going to also be an added cost on the city. And I don't think to maintain it and get it up to where it needs to be, is gonna be done with $5 parking. So I think before we get to the paid parking, like there's some decisions that we need to make about, like, if it is going to be parking and the city is offering it, what are we offering to them other than just a space for everything to, like you were saying, they're defecating there, they're trash. So that would be the trash that we would need to do. That would be the restrooms that we would need to do. And then also the safety concern and the crosswalks or whatever's going to be there all the way down to where, they're able to go. So there's some steps that I would like to see done, if there is going to be parking, because we're saying, yes, park there. It shouldn't be, yes, park there and it's going to be like a free for all.
Good luck.
You're on your,
Yeah.
you park there, you're on your own, So, just as long as we have that, because like the safety concerns are very, very real.
Yeah.
And then I think also like from the past, I can remember like our discussions that we've had, as far as like how many citations have been written as far as Kanban. within the community or in the areas, I think the number was 0. I think whenever it comes to like littering, 0, unless there may be one or one. But I think if I remember correctly from our previous conversations, unless that changed. So if that was, or enforcement was being done, to me, it would show in the numbers.
Yes. No,
Oh,
The river, let me just touch on the river outfitter. I like that idea. But also like in our ordinances on what a river outfitter has to do, the parking spaces, the way it should be done. That space right there, I don't think would comply with doing that as far as the way it is in our ordinances.
I don't think so either. There's a number of requirements, restroom facilities being one.
Handicap accessibility.
Paved parking areas and the rest. Okay, I think we have clarity on that. If what we might do is, given that there's some interest in possibly providing off-street parking in some manner, that's something we can look at in our zoning discussions. I know that area just on the other side of Northwest Rural Road. I know there's an application that the city's received to rezone all of that into the R1. I think that portion of land probably already R1 or a small sliver of it. But a large part of that area is in a flood hazard controlled space. So it presents some difficulty in future development. We can talk with the landowner about possible, if they have no other viable use for those spaces, given that's a flood hazard area, we can look and see whether they'd be open to accommodating an off-street parking scenario. But that's, I think we'll approach that later, but I'll take it to.
Let me have the last word. This is my final speech. Nobody in this room can talk about me about the river. I'm the Kanban man. I am totally for that river. And that's why I moved here. Anything I do is for the protection of the San Marcos River. But the problem is people the paddlers, we do so much for the river. Tom Goins' bunch, and they want access, and you're really.
We're not denying them. They have.
No, you're denying them access.
They have a place to go. If
they haven't got it together yet.
They said by Memorial Day.
Well, they don't know. I just spoke to them outside. They don't have it down yet. So you're going to shut that down. You got canoe racers, you got people using their recreations. And again, I don't think we have the full information. First of all, we don't have the paddlers here putting their case forward. Second of all, we don't have the law enforcement coming in here. You think I'm against trash? I'm totally against it. I don't want that to become a party pit down there.
It already is.
But it's going to change. But I'm saying,
Good.
let's just, can I ask this much? Can we just leave it status quo now? Don't have any parking like we done. But let's go back to phase 1 and let's go back to Alan Bates. Let's talk about that and then maybe table.
I don't understand what Tommy's going to tell you that's going to change your mind on that. Like what enforcement is going to change your mind?
Enforcement of a can ban of alcohol. Can you imagine if you're a party?
What did he say to that when we
Let me
talked?
finish.
We talked about this though.
Let
Do
me
you remember what he
finish.
said about that?
Let me finish. Nick, let me finish. Yeah. Let's take the partier's brain here.
Okay. I'm kidding. I don't party all that much.
So
I'm kidding.
It's not even a park.
My cue to chime in.
It's not a park. It's not a park.
Yes, Mike, go ahead.
I will correct that. The can ban applies to all the city limits, which goes to the opposite bank of the river. So
So we can't enforce it.
yeah, it's just a difficult ordinance to enforce because it's the
Keep going, Mike.
constitutional search and seizure rules that
Keep going, Mike.
exist. You can't just pop lids on people's coolers.
We don't make a decision, but we've got to have all parties involved. We've got to have the law enforcement here. And if you're a party animal and you sit there and you got a cooler full of beer and you're parking up, I'm going to go party. And then the officers come by and say, hey, you can't have You can't have non-disposable containers.
If we put parking spots there, stripe them out, we are telling people you can do that in that river, and we don't have a law enforcement there. That's all it is.
We have a sign, we says can ban, no alcohol, and you park in that parking lot, and they go by and patrol, and they see a cooler full of cans coming out of there, and say, you cannot have that in the parking lot.
Mr. McLeod, I don't believe that we would be able to not allow alcohol consumption in the river. We wouldn't have jurisdiction over that. The can ban could apply. It's just a difficult ordinance
What
to
about
enforce.
our alcohol ban in Allen Banks?
Well, it's a park.
Well, I mean, that's something, okay, let's just go down, let's go to the other parks. But again, I think you need the paddling community, Virginia Parker, they're gonna be upset with this.
No,
because-
she's gonna be glad that she has a place to park that's safe, and she can walk down to the river.
Nobody's gonna break.
But how do you know? I mean,
Cause I live right there.
Well,
I'm on the river all the
Dude,
time.
I mean, I'm a paddle.
I'm literally,
not gonna argue with you. I just think, oh, we really need to have a discussion with the law enforcement and the paddle.
All right, so the good news is, this is just a workshop.
Yeah.
So you'll have another opportunity to approach the issue. But for the purpose of the workshop, we're going to not consider Skull Bridge for paid parking ordinance.
Yeah.
And then we'll look at how else we accommodate that area through other ordinances, like a no parking ordinance or something like the rest.
Okay.
I do. Oh, God dang it.
Here you go. Come on. Do we want to just discuss or just go to phase one?
You know,
My recommendation is we go on to phase
Let's
one.
go to phase one. I've had enough.
I do want to, what I asked earlier, I do want to talk about that because I know we do have some people who are concerned about the overflow coming into the city and walking to the river and vice versa, taking away from people coming to the city because they have to pay to park. So I would like to hear from the city. I know we have Mari, who's a future business owner, and I would like to hear his opinion on that.
Well, I thought we were gonna go phase one.
Well, it's all tied together.
No, it's not. They're
I
all
mean,
separate issues.
if you're paying for parking in phase,
Wait a minute, we're talking about different.
Phase
areas.
one or Skull Bridge?
Let's talk about phase
Phase
one.
one, I had it there, okay.
Let's talk about phase one.
but that's, what I'm saying is, once you have paid parking at phase one, people are gonna park downtown.
Let's talk about phase one first. Well, if you want to, Jerry, you're running this speed.
Is that?
We're going to talk about all of them anyways.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me.
We have a
My
question on the floor, though.
my
and I think he should
recommendation-
Let him pursue the
My
question.
recommendation
He had a
for-
question.
My recommendation for city council on this matter of downtown parking is that we would implement paid parking in phases, if you will.
There you go.
And my recommendation is that we start in where we have the greatest need
I agree.
and go from there.
For sure, I just wanna
I'm
hear.
not sure if downtown, we might want to prove the success in phase one before we go to downtown, but
But if you pay for parking in phase one, people are gonna come here to park instead of parking there. Do you think that's a benefit to the city or not a benefit to the city? That's the question. And we have a guy who's sitting right there, who's owning this building right here, who's gonna have multiple businesses there, and he needs parking spots. And it's gonna be limited if we put phase one parking paid, and they're gonna come down here and take all his parking spots for his business. So it's relevant. Do you not agree?
Agree.
Okay.
I guess where I come down is I don't know. I don't know that we know yet that people will overflow into downtown in order to walk down
Because
to
it's quite a
either
bit.
Allen Bates or down to, I think phase one is the one even
Yeah,
further down.
phase one is over here.
That to me seems to be a very long haul, especially if they've got coolers or, their equipment and stuff. That seems like a long walk to me.
Mm-hmm.
My most immediate concern would be something that would add friction to people coming downtown and parking here, not only to patronize, our restaurant and bar, but also any of the other merchants here downtown.
Mm-hmm.
I don't disagree with you that a $5 parking charge, people probably, that may not get in a lot of people's way. I think.
I
some
just
people
made that
it might.
number up. It's,
No, I
yeah.
hear you, but pick your number.
Mhm.
I think a citation for 25 or 50 bucks, if I come down here to have dinner and I either exceed some limit or, something happens to me and I end up with a parking ticket, that tends to anger people, and I think it might convince them to not come back.
Mhm.
We've had a really difficult time having any merchant have longevity downtown.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Even the cafe, which has been here for a while, is on its third ownership group right now. So I think Martindale downtown, we're struggling, and I think we're all gonna have, even with the completion of the renovation here and opening that, and hopefully, getting a social media campaign out to visit Martindale, I think we still have an uphill climb to get people to come. So, my thought would be, have the system ready. If it happens, if it turns out that we do in fact have a parking issue and it is overflow from there, address it at that time, rather than proactively address it, perhaps, get some bycatch of discouraging people that would be an unintended consequence.
For sure.
So that's sort of where I am.
Agreed.
I have some quick question.
Dorothy.
Where do you expect your patrons that are coming from San Marcos, to park? Where do you expect them to park?
Well, I think the most logical place is the open parking lot that's owned by Frontier, and Frontier has allowed downtown merchants to use.
Okay.
I think there are a handful of spots here on the street, certainly in front of my building. I think people have traditionally outflowed, from there into the easements in front of people's homes. That's a far less desirable place for people to park, but I think it's a reality that they'll probably overflow into there. I'm super interested in Fannin, and the parking places that could be made available there. I think if we were to put it on our website, the merchants, that there's additional overflow parking, towards there, and we can encourage people to park there and be willing to walk there.
Mhm.
I walk for dinner. I would be happy to walk from, me personally, if I go to Green or something like that. I walk 10 or 15 minutes from the parking to get down to the Gristmill or wherever I'm going, and I'm happy to do that. But I'm not lugging coolers and all kinds of other stuff like I'm going down to visit the park.
Yeah.
So I think if we were to designate those places, line them out, make people aware that those are available to them, I think we can get people to use some of the other places that.
Yeah, like phase 3 park. We haven't even touched that or used
That's
that
what
at
we
all.
talk about.
Yeah, phase 3 could be turned into some kind of parking lot. We've just been trying to figure out how to make it safe. If people are crossing 1979, it's, people drive way too fast coming into town.
Okay. I think what we need to do here is focus on phase 1 now. Maybe Allen Bates, and forget about downtown, table that.
Can we just get a consensus among council members, yes or no, for parking downtown? Yeah, Just a
At this
yes.
point, no.
I'm a no.
I don't know.
Okay. That's for,
I'm a no.
Okay. There we go. Solved. Let's go to phase 1 then. This is really the area that drives the greatest concern for me and the city administration is the level of trash, garbage, and use. It's a classic free rider problem from a public policy standpoint. And I think the best way to handle free rider issues is through regulation and setting rates to moderate demand and also accommodate maintenance of that space. I think the more it gets used, you're already seeing all the different roads that traverse through that area. What makes that spot on the river special for me personally when I visit is the amount of greenery and things. If we continue to have that overused, a lot of that native vegetation is going to get trampled down. It's going to turn into a mud patch over the course of a couple of years, and that'd be a real tragedy, I think, for that space. So I'm encouraged that we're considering using Park Mobile to try to moderate the demand there in some degree and control it. The difficulty is the number of spaces and how we control the upper limit capacity. Park Mobile, that's one of the downsides of Park Mobile, is that they don't use a space numbering system. The only way to really enforce that would probably be laying down railroad ties or the limestone butter bricks or other physical impediments to constrict the area of parking to a defined geological or geographical area. That way people aren't just parking all over the grass and trampling it. Though we mow it, which I think we probably need to continue to mow it, keeping some of the green space is, I think, important. I wouldn't want to have that entire space turned into a gravel parking lot. I think what gives it character is the green space.
It looked like Don's
Yeah.
fish game.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want that.
So I think when we're looking at this, we need to consider constraining the capacity to some level, and then providing additional outlets for river use outside of that. And I'll just kind of leave the discussion there. And I want to get your.
Are there any other, is anybody aware of any other parks as this that is doing a similar task?
It's not a very good analogy, but the closest thing I could come up with would be the Kamal Park in New Braunfels, where they have that tube shoot on the Kamal River, where they charge $20 a day for that park and for people to walk down into the river. Now that riverbank is built up on both sides. It's
not natural.
it's not a natural environment, so that's why it's a little bit different. But I think that from the stand,
Is it pavement or is it impervious?
it's impervious. It's a paved parking. They kind of do it in a loop where you're basically parking on basically internal street to the park. But there's lined out for parallel parking. I think this one is likely unique in that it's a undeveloped, rugged area, but I don't think that necessarily detracts from.
Is there liability for the city in that realm? It is pretty rugged over there. We'd have to do some.
I think I'll let our attorney answer it.
Yeah.
If we provide adequate notice to people who utilize that space that they're doing so at their own risk, that it's unimproved, I think that would.
But then we charge for parking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think that would alleviate energies. I mean, it's no different in my mind. Than like you. I like to camp, National Forest Service, primitive camping. Oftentimes there's hardly ever a ranger, but you're on honor system. I think it's that type of environment.
Sure.
Here. The honor system, I don't think would be. It's a different customer who's using this, and so I don't think
So maybe this is a time for Mike to call upon our police officer to see what the easiest way to enforce this would be.
Well, it looks like the park mobile, right?
So the Park Mobile will set the rates, but we would have to enforce people paying the rates. And what the discussion with Tommy has been, we would contract that enforcement out to a towing company.
Actually, last time you talked about, they have an app that they can look at.
That's right.
And it's all done through the app, looking at license plates, and they can
Yes.
match the license plates, right?
That's the back end of Park Mobile. And ideally, we're not at the enforcement stage yet, but we would also have to get a tower or someone to
Well,
boot a car
that's kind of what I
that
was,
want to get onto a rugged road and
that's what I was getting at. It's like, how can we enforce that to where it's like, well, we have to have somebody actually go in there and pull a car out if they need to be, there's a lot of things need to be thought about before we start just saying, hey, go park in this field,
Well, it's really not that rugged.
Yeah.
I mean,
They've been doing it now for.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, I mean, for me, it's, okay, it is for fee, but it is also for control.
Right.
Because like Mr. Jeff said, a lot of people won't pay. Well, fine, don't pay.
Mm-hmm.
Because our capacity is gonna be over the top. So if you gotta pay, a lot of people won't come. Good. And like I said before, the residents do not pay.
Yeah.
What do we owe people that don't live in this town? Zero. We don't owe them anything because, I mean, we don't.
What
We
about,
don't because
what about
we're-
ETJ?
Huh?
What about ETJ?
I think we have to charge, it's not fair for the people that pay taxes here. They get it for free. And we're talking, we need the revenue for our parks and it's a control mechanism.
I'm not against it. I'm just playing
And
devil's
I'll see another
Is there a
little,
way to do a discount for people that are in ETJ?
no, I don't, well, I'll tell you what's gonna go down here, folks. I'm telling you what's gonna go down here. I'll predict this. San Marcos is in the process of starting pay, okay? With kiosks, which we can't afford. That's why the park.
Well, it also, just given the flood hazards, a kiosk would, I don't think.
Yeah, we trash it.
Yeah.
Trash. So what's gonna happen there? Here we go. Blue Hole is dried up. Jacob's Well is dried up. If the drought continues, guess what's the next one? The Colonel. We're gonna have thousands of people here. 100-degree weather, this is the only spring-fed river available. And if we don't put some sort of control, like by parking or paid parking, we're gonna get inundated.
Yeah.
And it's not our
Well,
responsibility.
no one's saying that we don't need to do that.
I think we need to fast track this thing. Now, forget about Skulls, forget about downtown. Let's focus phase 1 and possibly Allen Bates. And focus right now and get a consensus here and get this thing rolling by Memorial Day.
Well, what do we need a consensus on?
Let's go around.
So paid parking in phase 1.
Well, yeah, yes.
What's the charge?
Well, we'll get to that next.
That next.
Paid parking, phase 1. Mike?
Yes.
All right. How many, well, put it this way. What would you want to discuss first? Where's the greater interest? The number of spots or how much we're charging?
Well, I think we all agree that the charge it needs to be minimal. I think we're all on the same page there.
I disagree.
So
Okay,
let's go, more than $10, less than $10.
less than $10.
More than 10 or less than 10?
$7.
More than 10, less than 10?
$10 or less.
More or less than 10?
We gotta match San Marcos. It's gonna be 15 for all
Yeah,
day.
but you gotta think about, we're not offering what San Marcos offers.
We're offering something better. We're offering
You're-
primitive, no, it's a primitive place
There's
to
bodies
go.
out there.
Look. You got people coming from Houston, Austin, they pay $15 to stay here all day.
I pay.
I
Yeah,
would,
you pay 15, I
I'd pay
mean, it's
15. I pay
7 or
20.
8, it's not,
I think,
but again.
I think we need ease.
No,
into it.
I totally disagree with you, because we need to put the hammer down now. And by putting the hammer down, we put the hammer down because we want to make sure we don't want to get inundated. If people that do not live here, come down, want to use our facilities, they have to pay, and $15 or whatever.
Mr. Lattimore had something to say there.
Not everybody has your level of, our level of income where $10, $15, $20 is a drop in the bucket, okay?
Well,
To a lot of people, that's a lot of money.
that's our problem, Jeff. It's not our problem.
I just want to say $10 max.
I think no. I think it's a control mechanism. It's a control mechanism.
The last I heard from Chief Ward, he hadn't found out yet from TxDOT if we can put no parking signs along 1979.
He's working on it.
He is still working on that.
Adrian, is there a fee for the, for using the park mobile? The company?
we set the rate and they take a percentage.
So I need to know what
They do
the,
it, they charge a percentage on top of the rate.
so,
So if it's $10, I think it's,
so see, that's what I would need to
saw-
know before I base.
From what I saw in the past, and I was looking at possible pricing, and what the average for the market in Texas is? Is it about
We
40
got a,
cents?
hey, guys, we got a
How much?
monopoly.
It's like about 40 cents.
We have a
40.
monopoly.
40 cents per,
Well, let's,
Per transaction.
Let's,
Okay.
let's start at a point and work our way up as, it's just how business goes. You can't just be like, well, I got a really good brisket. I'm gonna put it for sale for, I think, $60 a pound. And just hope people.
You know, again, you go to Texas, you go to
we know
Texas,
Kreitz Market.
you go to Texas Parks and Wildlife, you go anywhere else you pay, like Jared said, you pay. It's about a control issue because I'm telling you, they're gonna come. And I'll say it again, on
I think
record, we owe people.
$10.
If you don't live in this town, if you don't live in this town, we owe you nothing.
That's fair,
I
100%.
mean, why, we do, as a city,
All right,
we don't even have enough money to keep the thing moving.
I think we have a consensus on, I mean,
I have a question.
Ma'am.
Yes,
Sorry, may I
Dorothy.
interject here.
You don't pay, by the way.
An-
You don't pay.
Okay, let Dorothy speak, please.
Annual passes. Is that something on the table?
Yes.
Is that something that we could offer to our ETJ members? Because, Mike, I understand what you're saying, but even though,
Annual pass.
listen, yeah, the people who live in the ETJ, they don't pay what we pay, but they come down here and they go to the restaurant and they use
We're
it.
talking about downtown where it's off the table.
I don't care about that. I'm saying those are our neighbors and those are our customers too. We want them, we want
So-
stuff to come back.
Like
So-
Charlie
So
Olds
then,
and Jane.
my question is, that's kind of two things, but annual pass.
Yeah.
That-
There you go, annual pass. There to make affordability.
My recommendation would be against it, just from an equity standpoint. Because I think Mike McLeod, his opinion on the matter, I find highly persuasive. That if you're not paying taxes, you have no right to that property. If they wanted to, want to use that, they're doing so as if they're from somewhere else in Caldwell County. It makes no difference.
Okay.
From that standpoint, we would welcome them to petition the city to annex themselves in if they wanted to.
And it could be on a case-by-case basis. If you have somebody like Mary Beth Harper, who's volunteering every day at the library, you could put her in the back door and just give her access.
That creates a lot of administrative problems, where the city's in the position of playing favorites. I think we have to treat everybody with a very bright line between
If somebody would like to pay for Mary Beth's annual pass,
Of course, she
Well, I
would be
think-
coming
I think
downtown
on the-
where
on
we're
the
not
I feel
gonna.
like that's very reasonable.
On the issue of annual passing, talking with Park Mobile, the way that it would work would not necessarily be stickers or something like that, like you might see in some beach towns.
Mhm.
What we would do is local residents would register with Park Mobile, and they would, the city would facilitate them being whitelisted, essentially. So when they go to phase one, they still log into Park Mobile, they would go to pay, and it would be $0, but they register that they're there. That way, the towing company gets an alert that don't tow this vehicle. To do an annual pass would create some complications, and then it kind of defeats the purpose that I found Mr. McLeod's
Cool.
persuasive.
I think
My
there's-
recommendation would be against it.
I think we're good there.
I just wanted to mention about like putting everything on the tow truck. Have y'all not seen some of the tow truck reality shows out there? Like how,
I've not watched reality TV.
I've been towed, I know what it's like.
how they, I mean, like this could potentially be like an escalated event happening by the river where families are there with their kids and they're fighting the tow truck driver and like,
That's.
Maybe I watched too much tow
Yeah,
truck
I think
towing.
Let's let our officer speak to that.
Uh-huh.
They're fighting. But my question would be on the app thing. So let's say I live here and I have a Martindale address and I punch in that app and I register. But yet I have 200 cousins that I can give that code to and well,
It would just be the vehicle,
With
so
the license.
unless you
Per
register
license plate.
200 license plates on your account, which would have to come through the city, and the city would quickly recognize that would not be a now if you want to pile your 200 cousins into one vehicle, you know,
Corey has something to back here.
Well, quick question, you were asking about tow trucks and everything like that, but how often do we have to have an actual vehicle in the park towed? And if they're parked there illegally, they haven't paid the parking pass or whatever, why not just write a parking citation for?
Too much burden on our police, right?
We only have
They
one.
can't enforce it.
that in itself, and then just looking at it, working here, and where I came from, it's not really, it's not enforceable. If people are like, well, go ahead, leave a ticket there. It doesn't.
Yeah, they'll just sit in limbo.
There's no background on our system, everything's fine.
And a
Right.
parking ticket is not a moving violation. So the insurance, I'm not worried. I can get 500 parking tickets.
Gotcha.
It doesn't matter.
So I guess we need to find out, are we for using a towing company?
well, that's how the enforcement would go. I would prefer to get clarity on the rates and things. If our goals are to promote safety, prevent trash, address the free rider problem, provide for maintenance, ensure river access and protection, and fund improvements. That's what we're trying to achieve. The problem we're trying to achieve with the rates. So if we go to, I don't think we're going to have an issue of demand the way that a $60 brisket would when the rest of the market
You're right.
at $30.
We got a monopoly here.
We
got
have
the old
we have a
barbecue
we have a
place
little
in
bit of a monopoly, and you look at San Marcos is going to an hourly rate system. The next closest example I can think of for river access, New Braunfels, is $20
$20 a day.
a day. So I think
Well, how many spaces does New Braunfels have?
I don't know, a lot.
We should
80, 120, I don't
Also
know.
to New Braunfels.
But it's not, like I said earlier, it's not a very good analogy.
It is a good analogy.
It's a good analogy only from the standpoint of it's paid parking for river access.
Exactly.
Nothing else about that facility really is comparable. If we're trying to achieve these things, I think the number of lots needs to be, is a big issue.
That's what we need to talk about next. I think
and
before
then-
we decide on.
But remember, we can't even pay to keep the thing mowed.
I think if we're looking at a target, a revenue target, I think
I'm just telling you, man, if this area is booming and we got one of the best spots, we have a monopoly. And I think people need to be charged if they are a non-resident or they don't pay taxes. We can't subsidize these people and we need to charge them. And if they don't come, that's fine with me.
in my mind, to achieve the goals regarding trash, maintenance, improvements, river access, or river protection and those things, river cleanups, we probably want to generate at a minimum, $10,000. Our goal should probably be about $15,000
A year.
a year.
We'll start doing some math.
Right. And so then it becomes kind of a math problem. How many spaces,
How many spaces can we fit down
and then how many days?
reasonably?
Okay, I went down there and I gave all the diagrams to our assistant city administrator. We measured Phase 3, we measured Allen Bates, we measured phase 1, we measured the Fannin lots, we measured all those lots, and I gave the numbers to him. But when we get into start talking about numbers of parking spaces, there are requirements that fall into play when you have, say, 20 spaces or 21 spaces. Certain parameters of other improvements need to be put into place when we have a designated amount of parking spaces. You've got, say, 20 parking spaces, you've got to have one handicap parking space. That's just one example. Phase 1, we figured out could conceptually accommodate about 75 parking spaces. Currently, the gravel parking lot we have there accommodates about 22 parking spaces. We have one gravel road going in. There is a muddy, rutty road in the middle with holes about this big. When the Friends of the Park, Sean and I went over there and looked at it, we determined that we would do away with the road in the middle, create a new road on the right, create parking on the right, create parking on the left. This will require more gravel and to have only one way in and one way out. And signage. So we thought about 75 parking spaces there. We had 25, we came up at Allen Bates, and 33 at the Fannin lot. So if you want to talk about phase 1 first, we came up with about 75 spaces.
My thought on that is that's too many.
Yeah, it seems like a lot.
There's not enough
we
room
probably,
for people down at the bank. There's not room for 75 people on the river.
I think we would probably want to keep it constricted closer to that 20 to 25 number, maybe 30. And that's still a ton.
Okay, so.
If every vehicle is coming in with 2 or 3 people, I mean, that's
You're right. Good
that's
point.
60 to 90 people down there. That is
A lot of people.
that is a ton of people.
So if we got, I'm sorry. go
So
ahead.
what we'll probably want to do is use some other physical boundaries to constrict parking to what's currently gravel, would be my recommendation. So if say it's 22, leaving up, I think we have some signs down there to accommodate people who may be handicapped or reserving them a space. But I think that would be sufficient.
I think if you did 30 spots at $10, and I'm just doing two.
Not enough.
Let me finish. Just let me finish. If you do 30 spots at $10 a day, right? And we'll just say 8 out of those days, 8 days out of the month are filled up.
Every day.
That's 24. That's $2,400 a month.
You won't.
That's $2,400 a month. I mean, times that by 12, we're hitting $28,000 a year.
Did you?
Well, I think we
Not the whole year, I know, but we're just.
I think what I've seen is we're probably, we're not packed down there every day. The weekends are packed. That's probably where you get the 8 from.
Yeah.
8 weekends.
Like July 4th will be, I know Easter will be, and people are
Memorial.
taking their own
I
tables,
mean,
Memorial
yesterday,
Day.
who was down there yesterday? How many people were down there yesterday?
Well, in Allen Bates, there were maybe a dozen max, but that was yesterday. From here on out, with the warmer weather, it's gonna.
Go get packed.
It's just, Allen Bates, I can't speak for phase 1. I've seen, there's more riverbank in Allen Bates than there is in phase 1, but people also fished along that area, so
I think, yeah, I think you're onto something. If I don't know how much paid parking we're going to get in the off season, but between April and May 1st through October 1st, those 5 months, if we're, what is that? How many weeks? About 20, say 22 weeks.
Yeah.
We're getting $600 a weekend. You're about 13,000. We're $10 is probably the minimum baseline of where we might want to go. Obviously, we're not going to be full every weekend, but I think that's a good estimate to capture the midweek uses.
it drops way down when football season starts.
Well,
Isn't $20 a bit of a shock from a free park? to 20.
Well.
20 might be
and-
too
but-
much.
But again,
One more thing on
I'm
that.
sorry.
If we have a $20 immediately,
If
we're,
people-
our data is gonna get skewed so bad because of that shock. If you have a $10 fee, we could kind of start seeing what the data patterns is
Exactly.
at parking at phase
Gotta ease into
one.
it.
But you
No,
know
we-
what? If
no,
we
we
did
don't.
incorporate some
Next year we can do
picnic
that.
tables, those areas having a little sign right there, $20 a day for the picnic tables.
Like pavilion area.
Or it could be like the 25 picnic table per the day. And those could be further towards the, towards the back, or, I mean, like where, if you wanted to do them like that right there, those could be the premium spots. I want the VIP section.
I think that's a very good idea.
And then those
The-
could be
the-
more.
The difficulty we would have is, creating some way of the reservation system.
Like, okay,
It's a
so,
permanent structure in a protected flood hazard area.
Well, we could work with the Texas Water Development Board, our engineers, and see what sort of things would be permissible. I know you can get picnic tables that are, made out of round pipe and things, and we could anchor them to the ground.
that's expense though.
It's an expense, but I think there's a little bit of an investment, what Councilmember Villalobos was saying. What it also does is it provides an outlet, a recreation outlet that's not focused just on the river.
Yeah.
I think that's,
I really.
that would be the
value in
premium spots, yeah.
I really think it needs to be up to San Marcos, 15, 8, what they do, 10 for the first 4 hours and 15 for all day. Find some way, we need to talk about an annual pass, some kind of a way we could get a discount for winter use or annual passes.
Corey has
There is
something
a
to say.
code where you could give people.
Okay,
Corey-
do that.
Corey has something to say.
Do that. Let me finish. We'll do that right. But what's gonna happen here? This isn't an actual, it's a deterrent. We don't want what happened last summer. And you know what? If we put it too high and when you get nobody to show up, then we drop the rates. Because I'm telling you, people are gonna spend that because if you're coming all the way, they're coming from Houston, Austin, they're gonna pay. If they wanna be in the spring-fed river. I mean, and I will say this is.
Let's go about the other way then, Mike. Let's fill it up as many times as possible. And if we find out that it's filled to the max all the time, then you go up in price.
Deterrent right now because it was out of control.
It's already a deterrent. $10 is already a deterrent. And then we're already limiting our spots. That's a deterrent. We don't need any more deterrent than that.
I think we do. We don't-
Corey, did you have something to say?
Yeah.
I think I've had enough. I'm going.
Well, actually, Mike,
I'm ready to leave.
this kind of rolls into your whole
Well, we'll go on. I won't talk.
Are you a dictator?
No, I'm not a dictator.
You're acting like one.
I'm out of here. I'll see you later, guys. Y'all have a good day.
Well, Mike, I do have a question on this.
I'm gone. Okay, so yeah, y'all do what you want. I guess I'll hang to the end, but,
He just walked in though.
I'll hang in the end, but y'all go right ahead.
Well, here's the thing is, during the plague, San Marcos shut down all the parks. We shut down all the parks here to prevent all the San Marcos from coming over here and invading us. With that, we saw heavy usage over here at Skull Crossing. That became a nightmare. That got shut down finally. And all those people moved over here to the low water crossing in the back of her house. And that became a nightmare. I mean, truthfully, I don't care. Kids and their parents are out there fishing, having a good time with family time. But when you got 40, 50 people out there skipping bikinis, tatted up and everything like that, playing loud music, drinking, and causing all sort of ruckus out there, trespassing, that was all overflow from the parks and everything else getting closed down. And that's kind of my concern on that is, yeah, let's have gate parking for people out of the area. But my concern is that if they don't want to pay, they're all just going to be trespassing and backyard down with the river. And I got threatened last summer in my backyard and asking people not to.
So what do you think we should do?
I do like the pay parking for people that are out of town. the higher rate, I think it's a little bit too much to start off with. I think probably $2 a good thing, and if it's still crowded, let's bump it up. But I mean, I hate denying a father taking his kids down to the river and fishing.
And we're in one of the poorest counties,
Mhm.
Collier County, not.
Corey, I think you might, I don't know if you were here when we were talking about how we were gonna enforce it down at Skull, but it'd probably be a good idea to have those signs down by the back
Yeah.
of your property as well.
On Johnson
Yeah,
Street.
I put up no parking signs, I put up no
What is-
trespassing signs, I even had no
Well,
trespassing signs.
But if we had official ones from the towing company,
And they actually enforcing it, I mean,
No, what I think, one of the things is, I've been down there, so not everyone knows that we have 1979 as a park.
Yeah.
The one advantage of having the paid parking at the Skull, is that they go to the app and then it shows them, hey, there's this other park down the road.
yeah.
We're getting them driven to it. The negative of saying no parking at all at Skull, you've got to put a sign up there saying, well, the parking is for beach goers, if you will, river access, people want to wade, is supposed to be at these two other parks.
Yeah.
I want access to Skull personally. I don't want the waiters. No, you're trespassing. I think that's what everyone's real concern is, the kids walking down off of the road. And we've all driven there, and it's, in the summer, it's dangerous. I tell my kids basically, be very careful driving down there in the summer, because those kids just run across the road, and I've come close to hitting them a couple times myself. So from a safety standpoint, I totally understand. But there's not a sign saying, hey, by the way, we're denying you access to this place you've been using for 20+ years. Where are they gonna go? And that's the negative. You're worried about this blowback because of the price. The same thing is we're gonna be in the San Marcos paper once you put this on, and do you want this to be a positive spin on an article, or do you want it to be a negative spin? I want it to be a positive spin, say, look, they're doing this because the long-term plan is to put better parking solutions, like you said, about, putting, picnic benches down there that are gonna be able to withstand the river. It's not something we're gonna do this year, because you're not gonna have the money, but long-term, yeah,
But,
it's a great solution.
so with that, with long-term, so this will be an appropriate place for me to launch my idea. And I think that also, I've talked to Mike about it too, so I know he'll be in agreement with this. And that is to start, our developments that are coming in to have a park development be added to their development. So that would be another way to generate money, not only from our citizens or from our visitors in the community, but I want the developments that are coming into Martindale to also invest in Martindale and invest in the amenities in Martindale. And I want there to be a park development fee added to what they're doing.
That's a great idea.
Boom.
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 Thank you, Mike.
Good suggestion.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
Yep. That's a good one, right?
I sent
I
you a
like
bunch of
it.
pictures of the garbage and all that. Did you happen to upload any of the stuff that I sent
I
you?
hadn't uploaded it. I actually wasn't sure why you sent those to me.
To show how bad the garbage was. It's a prime example of what Jerry had mentioned.
Let me
I don't know if
bring
you
it
have
up.
the ability to access those, but that's just an example of what we were putting up with during.
That's why.
yeah, the garbage is almost more of a problem than the parking.
Why do we put extra trash out there during the holiday?
So
No, we
Okay,
collect the
wait,
trash. and bring-
Here's some of the ones that I sent you.
this is by the limestone blocks on phase 1. This is phase 1, I
Oh,
think.
yeah, I've been there when that.
That's why you need a charge.
And to hire someone to
Pay that.
constantly collect all that garbage and bring it back downtown is very expensive.
And there's phase 1 park, completely full.
Wow. Right, yep.
I mean, isn't this already in your property, Sam?
Yes.
These are your stakes.
Yeah, and I put up all those stakes to try and reduce the accessibility to the phase.
Hey, put some spike strips. I know those will work.
It'll work.
This is phase 1, beautiful.
Yeah, this is
Well,
I
that's
mean,
what
1, 2, 3, 4,
Jared
5,
had a good
6, 7, 8, 9,
75 is
15.
way too.
No, it's an hour slow.
maybe 20.
Way too many, and really, it really, long-term, it needs to be all green space across the road should be the parking lot, but that's way down. So I guess we didn't
Thank you.
find out what do you, what we.
I think based on some very rough estimating criteria that Councilman Styler and I kind of went through. If we assume on the weekends we're 100% capacity and there's 30 spots and you get both days, Saturday and Sunday are full, you're going to generate $600 a weekend.
How much per car?
At $10, well, at $10 with full capacity every weekend between April, the 1st of May and
It's just 2 days
October
a
1st.
weekend. That's not including.
No charge during the week.
Yeah, well, no, I'm just, this is just to, if our goal is at a minimum $10,000, would like to be in the $15,000 to $20,000 range at a $10 per car per day rate, will probably be somewhere in the range of about $13,000.
7 days a week?
Well, hold on. There's a difference between what I'm using for very rough back of the napkin estimation of what our revenue projection would be. This isn't talking about how we would actually set the rates. Because not every weekend's going to be 100% full. And we're also going to have people parking there during the week. But as a baseline, at a minimum, we could probably, at a $10 rate, we could probably expect about $13,000 for the summer. I don't.
That's about a 5 month.
What about $10 a day during the summer?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
For 7 days a week.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But
I
you're
like
not
that.
going to. I completely agree. I'm just trying to say, where's the
That's the
floor?
Yeah, that's.
Where's the floor? What can we expect the floor to be? Because we wouldn't want to set a rate that the floor is below.
Yeah.
You know what San Marcos is doing? They're doing, what is it? The first 4 hours is 10, 8 hours is 15, and then they say special events like holidays is 25. So
I mean, it's all.
I think $10 is very reasonable.
I think it's
7 days a
I think
week.
it's all adjustable. We
Yeah.
can set these
Yeah.
rates.
I think-
however
So
we
could
want.
we have an agreement on $10?
I'm good.
I'm
7 days a week.
Yeah.
There you go.
See, aren't you glad you didn't leave?
Yeah.
Oh my God, Mike
Well,
McLeod.
call me a dictator.
Jeez.
I'm ready to get out of here.
You're not.
I'm not a dictator, so
Ah,
call me a dictator. I'm out of here.
Mike, stop
Hey,
it.
was that a DICT?
An emphasis on the.
I don't like to be called that.
Dictator.
So,
My recommendation is we keep the
Oh,
rate
Mike.
year round. Year round, 7 days a week. You know, the rate exists 24/7. The park is closed after dark, but the rate would exist 24/7. That way, it
Very nice.
very easy, very upfront on how it's done.
Speaking of closed at night, if our police force could drive by through whatever it takes to make sure people are actually leaving at dark.
Oh yeah, they do that. They've chased people out of there.
A guy that's camping on the side of Martindale Bates, leaving his calling car down by the river. That was real nice. But never mind that. We'll just,
Rick.
So I love that your idea about the charging, high and, the hammer, the hammer.
baby.
But I am a river person and I love the river. I love going to the river. And so but when I go, if I'm gonna pay, I'd like to see that you have not necessarily the upfront parking, but the VIP, the mowed grass, the trash picked up. And I think right now, if we do that and they come here and pay $20 and they're like, man, I'm gonna pay $20 to park here. And then if the following year, once we get that money generated and you start getting fancier, then, oh yeah, people are gonna be, and then, because people, I think, are always under the assumption that, because I hear a lot, oh, the city just wants to make money. I mean, that's.
We're just trying, we're trying,
You know, they
we are
want
trying to make
raises.
money so we can pick up the trash.
Exactly.
They want raises, they want,
Exactly.
police want you, we get the blunt out of that, right?
Yeah.
And it's, but they start seeing what the money's being used. And then if you say, well, this is why it's so high, you know, oh, boom, boom, and the word spreads. The word spreads and, I mean, they start coming. And that's what happens in New Braunfels. So I've lived there all my life and, you know, the citizens there were like, well, man, the city's charging. They just want money.
Do they,
Just want
do they charge residents?
Yes, sir.
We don't, that's one thing I totally.
They give a discount.
We don't charge the resident. I'm firm on that. We don't charge.
And now, you know, you got paid parking. Now you've got, you know, trash cans everywhere. And you don't see that trash, you know, and where's the pay?
Let's, if, I think we have agreement on, the number of spaces, the rate, on phase one. We'd like to go to Allen Bates and talk about, do we want paid parking in Allen Bates?
I
Same
would
rate.
say the same thing,
I agree with you.
Mhm.
same
Totally
thing.
agree.
To say yes to parking.
In
Allen Bates.
to implement the same rates, at Allen Bates as we're doing in phase one.
Yeah, because if someone pays $10, they can choose either to sit at the picnic tables, go to
Good
the
answer, 'cause I was gonna
playgrounds.
pinch 'em.
One thing though, that I don't know if Park Mobile can enforce this or not, was I think in San Marcos, the first 30 minutes were free. What if someone just wants to come and check out the park and come back later or walk? I mean, unless that instills another layer of complication,
Sorry?
which it
I did see
would.
that.
I think it would.
I did see that.
Yeah.
I did see somewhere we could do that.
It creates some complication. I think it would make more sense that the first 30 minutes free if you're doing an hourly based rate, I think on a day rate, that it's hard to know then when do you pay. And if you want to be there for 30 minutes,
Simple as that.
You're
You can-
taking
you-
your
you
chance.
can take your chances and not pay. Now, the odds of the tow truck coming in those 30 minutes is, who knows? But you,
Always peeling over there, you know?
One thing we have to do is we have to protect the residents, and I don't want any resident's car hauled off. We've got to prevent that at all costs. Just that
They're gonna have
well, what we'll have to do is have a dispute resolution, form that someone can submit if they think they erroneously were towed or something.
But how can we do that? We don't want that to even happen. I don't want anybody's car towed that's a resident.
Well, on their
So we would
license, it
have
would
to
say,
Yeah, you would, the
Mark,
tow
no?
truck would have to have that.
We'd have to make sure we have that.
They'll need to register
Yeah,
with Park Mobile.
they have to do due diligence as a resident if they're parking at a park. That's just how it is, right?
You don't like the sticker idea, having something,
We could do a sticker, but I think that if all enforcement is being run through the app, that sticker is not gonna be reflected in the app, and there's a potential that there's two things that could go wrong. One, someone who thinks because they have a sticker, they don't have to log in on Park Mobile and say that they're there, which the towing company wouldn't see. And so there's a false sense of security that could be created on the part of the customer. And then two, it creates some complexity for the tow truck to have to check biz list. This car hasn't paid. Now I need to get out, check windshields and things.
but
We could do stickering. It may be an extra layer, but we'd have to be very clear with people that just because you have a sticker.
Gotcha.
Right,
It would, if you had a sticker, that would be a defense that their car wouldn't be hauled off. If we had a sticker, wouldn't go through the loops there. I just really don't want any citizen's car hauled off at all costs. So.
If they don't register at the Park Mobile, we won't be able to see the numbers behind it. What's our traffic every day?
I
They don't
understand
register.
that, I understand.
There's a
We're only-
data
We're
standpoint that
only
we feel like.
talking about, we're only talking about residents.
That's right. We should know
Well,
if our residents are even using our parks.
There's some value in that data.
I have an
I agree
idea.
with that. 3 out of 4, 4 out of 5 people that use Elevate are not from Martindale per se. Okay, so most of it is outside use. I mean, in the area, I mean, ETJ, Luling and Lockhart, I mean, you know. But also, what else? Lots of people walk up to work and there's one more. Oh, and I talked to everybody that I think walks to the park. It is rare that people are just walking down to the river to see the park. That happens on occasion, but it's not every day that somebody's just parking and walking down to the river and coming right back. It happens, not very often.
That's something we can't really do too much about. I mean, what we're trying to do is just we're bringing your vehicle is all we're trying to regulate.
I was just saying that there's not many people that need that half-hour charge.
it's a lot of time.
Corey had a comment. Did you still have a comment, Corey?
Well, it's just kind of going back to just all the amount of trash down at the Allen Bates. There is kind of that little road, little trail or whatever going down to the river. What if we actually open that up for loading and unloading? And you know what?
Unloading what?
Well, like, okay, we've got boats. Oh, no. Oh, if y'all want to do that, but, I mean, mostly everybody's down there kind of camping, not even camping, but, they use food.
But the problem is, Corey, if you do that, they're gonna take their pig, they're gonna take their barbecue pits, they're gonna take their coolers. They're gonna take more and more stuff, so that distance kind of restricts that.
I agree with that, but at the same time, they're also leaving all the trash down there. If
So you're gonna have more trash.
If you have an easy way for them to pack it all
No,
out.
that's
I mean,
just,
We've got a trash can, like just before you walk down to the river.
you
We've
don't
got
wanna,
a
you don't
trash.
wanna, you don't wanna
Actually, right there.
drive cars down
I used to have 3.
Yeah.
there. Yeah, you don't wanna do that.
There's 3 cans.
They'll be
down
hauling
now.
they'll be hauling their
But
kitchen
it's
sink.
like, I mean, going back to national parks and camping out there, I mean, all that is, pack in, pack out, keep your parks
Well,
beautiful.
A lot of people don't do that around
It's a cultural
here.
thing.
Exactly. I'll leave it
Well,
at that.
we could start a campaign.
Well,
It's
I don't-
much better than it used to be 4 years ago, let me just say that.
True. Okay, so we're in agreement without doing that.
All right, so let's go to some of those areas highlighted in red. So the non-park parks.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get going because I'm gonna go take my father-in-law to hospital. But one thing I wanted to say is like, as far as like residents, how to distinguish their residents, like whenever we do launch it and our utility bills, we can like send, hey, if you're a resident, you want to use the parks, come into the city and get your sticker. They pop that sticker on the windshield like you do when you go to the coast. I like those, like collection, I have my stickers along. And then you just get your Martindale resident or a nice Coal River sticker. And then that way, that'll be, if they're doing a check, that's a resident.
Mhm.
1 sticker per resident.
Mhm.
You gotta take that same car to the park all the time.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, like I said, it's a nightmare for me if we start towing off the residents of the town. It would just be totally.
It'd just be one of your 3 firms.
Huh?
Just one of your 3 firms.
Oh, yeah.
The
I have riverfront. Huh?
Oh,
The next area of consideration is the Fannin Street lots, the phase 2s and phase 3s
See you later.
that the city has. My recommendation at this point is to not
Hey, would-
utilize those
would you put it
for
up there?
parking until we have a good sense of the demand and whether it would make sense to do it. But I'll leave it to city council to weigh in on that issue and we can discuss it or if we're in concurrence on that recommendation, then I think we can start to close out the meeting.
Yeah.
We counted 20 spots in the Allen Bates parking lot and 5 in front. We came up with roughly about 25 spaces there. If we see, once we start charging at Bates, that we do have overflow onto the streets or the Fannin Street lots, then that would be a point in time in which we could expand those lots. But we do need to charge at Bates, because if we start charging at phase one, everyone is gonna come here if you're not charging, and then it will really overflow onto the streets, but phase one is different. I envision 6 picnic tables there, people coming and spending more time than just coming to swim on the riverbank. So there's a potential at Bates too for charging. 20 spaces, let's say, times 10 would add another $200 a day.
$400 a weekend times 20, another $10,000.
$10,000, yeah, pretty good.
Sounds good to me.
I think we can make these parks really nice with those funds.
Absolutely.
I guess my question, you think we can have this done by Memorial?
That's our goal.
Okay.
That's our goal.
We do need what Mari said, and I'm truly concerned about as
Sorry.
we move this way. It is gonna affect the city, and we do need to be prepared for that, because it will happen.
You know what? Maybe you guys can do that. Once we do all this, can we kind of look and see if you see a pattern of people parking downtown, walking down the Bates, and, also tell the business owners if you see this happening.
It could be beneficial for them too, though. It could push people to the downtown area and like, oh, maybe we do want to drink or food, so that's the other side of that where I'm like,
Let's grab a can of something.
yeah.
I think it's, I do. Yeah, I could it.
You try to just get me.
Come on, man, come on.
It's a business opportunity. I think if I were a business owner downtown, to do non-disposable crowlers,
Daiquiris to go.
and non-disposable containers with
Lord.
Martindale logos on
There you
them.
go. 100%. Great idea. Sounds really dangerous, and I think that we need to have another workshop just for that.
Maybe the city goes into a business that does it themselves.
Hey, just real quick, you know what?
What, are we liable for that? I think we're good, yeah. I think
You
that's
know what San Marcos does
TABC license.
downtown? They have 2 hours. This is what they do. I have a friend of mine who's got a restaurant down.
Yeah.
They have 2 hours of free parking.
Yeah.
Downtown.
Yeah.
And they, after 5 o'clock or whatever, it's free. So that's something down the road. And
We do, I like that. We do have to think about how much enforcement we have on that, and they're gonna be busy.
We need to find a path. Like you
We
said,
do.
let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Once we start charging the parking for those 2.
Yeah.
And see.
I think I was hoping he would see it like that too, because it will be beneficial to the city as we do move this way. The more people in downtown, the better, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. I think we're totally.
It's like the burger place that shuts down all the time. It's like no one knows it's a restaurant. It doesn't have any it just says feed barn. And they don't let people park up front. Like they don't know anybody's there. It's the same thing. Like if no one's parking here and there's nobody here, no one's gonna know anything's happening here. So you have to push people to the front of the store, into the roadway, if you may. Not the kids.
Yeah, maybe I'm way ahead of myself here, but that big spot of property right there, across from phase 1. I think eventually, if the town grows, that would be an ideal parking lot.
Mhm.
We'd have to have issues with safety and all that stuff, but that right there could control the downtown, and also, I'm agreeing with Jared. Really, in long term, phase 1 needs to be green space. If you could incorporate that as a parking lot and have that as green space down the road.
I mean, first you have to put the infrastructure in place. There needs
Oh,
to
it's
be-
safety issues.
There has to be sidewalks that are really safe, a lot of blinking lights.
I've talked to Tommy about this. You want the ideal, but you got that tape stop. We can't control. The ideal would be have an intersection at Main Street
Uh-huh.
and 1979. You got an intersection, a light there, people could walk safely.
I ride my bike all the time, and the scariest part of my bike ride is always taking a left on Southeast River Road. I hate that left.
Oh, yeah.
These guys are patrolling though.
That's the worst.
And New Braunfels, they have those walks where you go and you punch the button, it turns the light on.
Yeah, they have it in San Marcos all over the
Do
place
you
now
think
too.
we could you think TxDOT would allow that?
I think so.
That's my
once you start.
They're expensive.
We're about to make some money on this parking, boys. Come on now.
We're going for, I think we're working on a ton of grants right now. That's something that we could look
I
at.
think it's worth it. I think that's what we need to
Those lights are
be
like a
thinking
couple
about.
$1,000.
That's fine.
Show in that parking lot, and we'll show back and forth. That was the-
That's
that was
true.
the safer.
Little trolley, if you may.
All right. I think I have what I think we need to put an ordinance together on this stuff. Adrian, anything else we need
One
to?
more missing element to it. It's about the residents in the city. So I wanted to hear, at least from the council, is, are we all good with residents don't pay?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm insisting on that.
I know it's kind of implied.
Yeah.
And enforcement is, everybody keeps on referring to towing. So I'm inclined to believe that everybody's okay with doing towing.
Yes.
And us reaching out for a contract with a local tow company to
Yes.
do that.
Just to add what I said, I want to make sure that maybe stickers, I don't want to happen one time. I don't want any of our residents to get told off. That would be an embarrassment to the city. Because we would have severe backlash on
We
that.
can also put some contract language in with the tow companies on that matter too.
And you guys, be something that, that's another thing, another reason for these people, you talk about the ETJ. Well, if you come into our ETJ, guess what? You got free use of our parks. If you come in our city limits, if you come in, that's another carrot to
It's
offer.
just city limits.
I'm talking about in the future,
Oh.
if we say, if you guys come in, you will have free access to our parks. That's another carrot.
Corey,
Okay, so we're talking about starting this Memorial Day. Hopefully starting it. What are we gonna do about signage and informing people that, hey, we're gearing up to have this?
Oh, we would
Park
do
Mobile, provides signage, and then the tow company would also provide signage. The only thing that that the city would need to do to prepare is to make sure we put some physical barriers and obstacles to really constrict that parking area down at phase one with railroad ties or something along those lines.
Yeah, if you guys are gonna close off Skull, you guys are gonna have to put signs and say there's other places to go.
Yeah, my thought was to put a park a sign that puts,
100%.
that references Park Mobile, a QR code or a link, and it will show you where else to park, which would be the green zones.
Yeah, but I mean, Skull, you're gonna close off Skull and you're gonna start
That's right.
enforcing, these people have gotta know that you just took away the,
Right.
20 years they've been doing this, because I've talked to people down there and like, this is, no, I don't agree that they should be waiting in the water, but people have been doing that for 20 years,
Yeah,
you've seen.
it's gonna be a
the same ones every year.
We'll put signage here.
Yeah, you're gonna say, and I talked to some of them, I said, do you know there's a park in 1979? And they go, they didn't even know.
I lived here for almost a year and a half. I didn't know there was a
Yeah,
park
I
over there.
remember we talked about that.
Yeah, I was like, what?
I think we need to talk later about changing the name to Phase One. Sounds like some CD or something.
What I gotta say about change.
We do have a.
We're recording this,
He's on record. He's on record.
Also against charging downtown for now because of the signage that would be required in order to do that. We need to think about maintaining the historic character of our streets.
Oh,
And if we have all these signs and all that, I'm against that for now.
I think there's definitely a correspondence of how everything should look. I think that's like, there's definitely a congruency of how the signs should all read, unless it's a towing sign that's gonna be red. Be like, don't park here, or,
Towing enforced.
yeah, cool.
Thank you.
Well, just going back to the sign thing real quick on the Park Mobile, saying that they provide a lot of stuff for signage saying, hey, we're doing this. How long are you actually planning on having that out? I just don't want to see people get blindsided, like, oh, I can't park here, I have to park, I have to pay for parking. I haven't planned for doing that. It'd be kind of good, just like the can ban, we had those signs up for a long time before they actually started getting enforced.
People coming from out of town, they're gonna be, that's just.
Yeah,
I think,
how do we reach
yeah,
out to
we're gonna
those people?
enforce it right away.
yeah, we just,
I think we're gonna enforce it right away once we get the signs up.
I mean, I see what you're saying.
I would
Yeah,
make,
like, just
From
here's
Austin,
a
I would
heads up.
park there, but wait a minute, what
I
happens?
would make one suggestion, Jared, maybe when we get everything implemented here, maybe we should do one more workshop, for everybody come in and talk, maybe, one more time.
Just for like a public outreach.
Yeah.
But the
Well,
memorial.
we're gonna have to do that with the ordinance. There'll be opportunities for public
So
discussion.
Memorial Day is on the 29th, and 60 days from today, which is when the signs would arrive if we order them today, would be May 24th. So we kind of need to order these signs now, but between that 60-day period, we ought to do some serious outreach.
Where are you ordering the signs from?
Oh, we
get 'em from-
contract with,
Laser signs.
Oh,
No, Park Mobile gives those to you for free, my understanding.
oh.
The good news was that phase one in Allen Bates was all, so,
all right.
good.
Adjourned?
Phase one and
We
Allen.
good?
Yeah, good. Good stuff, guys.
Mayor, do you want to take a motion?
Well, it's a workshop.
Just let adjourn it. Let's let adjourn the meeting.
Okay, so, this is what I'm hearing, is Skull is no, downtown is no to charge for parking.
But that's how you were acting.
No, it's disrespectful.
Mike, to recap from what I'm hearing is Skull is no to charge for parking. Downtown is no to charge for parking, but phase one in Allen Bates is a yes.
Mhm.
Is that what everybody else has heard?
At a $10 rate.
At a $10 rate?
And a space for roughly 30 parking areas in phase one.
Okay. So,
Are you doing that line down at the corner? I thought you were talking like maybe 2025 vehicles for the,
Oh, phase one?
yeah.
We could,
Can't really hear that.
Well, that's what mine, gives us the most money, it's the negative park app.
10. I think we decided on $10.
Oh, no, for.
The amount of people.
The amount of parking spots.
We roughly put 25 to 30 is what we discussed. We haven't really designated the area out and measured it out, so it just depends on where we're at on that.
You know what, Tommy made a really good suggestion, is you put, drive T-posts all the way into the ground flush,
Yeah.
and then put like a reflector or some kind of tag, and that would designate a parking place. And that'd be a very cost-effective way to go.
It's not a horrible idea.
You would, make sure it's below the ground level and attach
Yeah.
something to it. Since we don't have any paid parking like that, so you can't do stripes.
Yeah, there's a lot of different options that we can, and it definitely introduce to that table
Well,
there.
Then that proceeds really into this quick question. Does the Park Mobile app, when you would click on it then and see cars, does it say parking full?
No, but
See, then-
I
then
could,
They'll just keep coming.
that's why we have to put physical
Yeah,
restrictions.
you gotta put the butter sticks out there, buddy. Something.
People don't go park on
Railroad
the-
guys, something.
Well, phase one,
Or
they're,
just put a
they're,
fence.
they're just gonna park on the dirt.
Well, we need to have the
Well,
space.
that's why we're going to bound it off with butter sticks,
Or
railroad ties,
Something.
fencing, like that yellow cabling that we've done in Allen Bates, something.
So we're hoping to achieve all that by May 24th. Put up all these barricades by May 24th.
That might be, feasible.
Break out the postal digger.
Let's go.
Back to the cables, that's floodway there. I really think butter sticks and probably the stakes in the ground would be probably the way, but we can talk about that, but. agree, it needs to
Just,
be.
on the, I'm sorry, we talked about this, on the app, do you check out when you leave?
No,
that's part of the reason
It would-
why you don't get a designated parking space.
Okay, so
Yes.
then if, when somebody comes in, then they have to.
yeah, so it's likely someone comes in pays for a day and leaves after 4 hours. Someone comes in, parks where they were taking up space and pay $10 again, and that area of land just generated more than a day's worth of parking, which,
I understand that,
Yeah.
I was just curious about that, and
They're gonna say less
It's
when they pay.
It's a good day for
Hey, by the
you.
way.
They wanna get the money's worth.
Park minister.
Sorry about my outrage, but when somebody calls me a dictator, I'm a.
Oh, dude, don't worry about it. That's what we're here for, discussion. It's just
To call me a
discussion.
dictator that offended me. Really did.
It offended me
Call me a
too.
dictator. How can I be a dictator?
Okay.
Council people.
Sorry about that.
You gotta
Okay, it's
Sorry about
11:48.
Oh,
We are adjourned.
Yeah.